say a little bit about yourself and who you are. I think I probably already talked 3 minutes. So again, welcome. I'm Clyde Jones. I'm right here in Daphne. So of course, I'm the candidate for 1st Congressional District, which is part of Mobile, all the way over to Houston County, Henry County, and all those areas over in the east there, all the way from the Mississippi border to the Georgia border. So it's a wide area, right? Everywhere I go, people are excited. People are excited about having a change. So I'm looking forward to this election. I'm looking forward to this election. I do not have a primary opponent, right? And that's one reason that we're not participating in this, because I do not have a primary opponent. I've had several people message me already and ask me why am I not on the sample ballot. And that's why I'm not on the sample ballot. I do not have a primary opponent. So I will not be on the May 19th ballot at all. So don't get in there and say, why did they leave Clyde off the ballot? Because I will not be there. I'm also running for the state executive board for the Democratic Party, right? So that will not be on there either, right? I don't have no opponent for that one either. So that one is, so I will not be on the ballot at all. So for those of you who know, who live in this area, you know I have there are 7 Republicans running for this seat. And they are beating each other up. And let them keep beating each other up. And we'll see how that goes. I think they're going to have a runoff, which means I probably won't know who my opponent will be until June 16th. So let them keep doing what they do. And we'll keep doing what we do. So Terry, you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out and braving the rain this morning. It was quite a little bit of a snafu to get this thing going because of our weather. But I'm Terry Osborne. I'm running for the State House here in Alabama in District 96, of which you are sitting in right this moment. This is my district. It extends a little piece of Fairhope coming from Scenic 98 up to Daphne, includes Daphne a little bit, so unincorporated areas of Daphne out to 181, a little bit east of that, goes north, covers all Spanish Fort, and a little north of that in Loxley, I believe. So it's just very, very compact. I don't have to drive all the miles and some of these other candidates are having to do, and I'm hoping to be a voice. I want to be a voice for the least of these, people that don't have a voice in our political system and don't have a voice in our legislature, those who don't have $1 million for a pardon or whatever. I want to be a voice for those, be a voice for myself. I am a trans woman. I am running for office. I'm angry, and I'm going to fight for every one of us that aren't represented by the Republicans in our state. And I want to turn this state as purple or blue as possible. So y'all get out and vote. And bring a friend, a neighbor. We need votes. There are more registered voters that don't vote in elections in Alabama than do vote. And we can get those off their butt and come out and vote. We will win this thing, y'all.
That's right.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ashley Sharp. I'm running for the Alabama State Senate for District 22. That is not this, we're not in our district right now, but I have Loxley, Robertsdale, a little bit of Foley, Summerdale, and then up to Escambia County and Washington County. So if you're in any of those areas, please watch out for me. I have some stuff over here. I do have a newsletter coming out starting in May, so if you want to get a newsletter, go ahead and sign up for that. I am running because I am tired of the political distractions that they are coming up with and drumming up with in Montgomery. We see a lot of random issues that don't make any sense and don't actually help us. We have a bill to rename the Gulf, and then we have bills that attack trans people and immigrants, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of these little bitty bills that mean nothing but are doing so much damage. But I'm ready to fight in Alabama and in Montgomery to bring issues that actually mean something to us and actually help us in our everyday lives. So thank you again for coming out. I'm really excited to see everybody, and I'm really excited to kind of meet everybody as much as I can. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So again, We will be your moderators. Now, they're gonna be doing all that question action. I'll be keeping time and making sure we stay on point, so I'll kind of be out of the way over there. I do want to cover the instructions. So each candidate will be given 3 minutes for an introduction. Questions have been submitted to those in attendance, and our volunteers have gone through them to remove duplicate questions. So if there were 2 or 3 questions that were basically the same, so you might not hear your question phrased just like you wrote it because it was similar to another one that was submitted. We will read each question. The candidates will given 3 minutes to answer. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes, and we will rotate who goes first. At any given time, one moderator is keeping the time, and that's me. I'll do that all, and then the other one will be asking the questions. The timekeeper will give a signal when 30 seconds is remaining. If one candidate mentions or attacks another candidate, that candidate will receive 1 minute to respond. So if you don't call anybody's name, that's here, you don't have to be concerned about that part. We will do our absolute best to get all the audience questions within the time frame we have. And we're going to start with our candidates for governor. And we have Dr. Will Boyd here and Mr. Nathan Mathis here with us today. Let's give them a hand just for being here. They both had to travel quite a ways to be here with us today. So we're supposed to be getting some benches for you guys, but as of right now, how about y'all come over here and have a seat in the blue chairs or the bench right there? Either one, I guess, until we. There are blue chairs over there. That's good.
Pool should be here any second. Pool will be here in just a minute, but y'all take the blue chairs.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Get everybody a seat again? All right. Good deal. You said just ignore it. And again, we will begin with and Will's going to start, Dr. Boyd's going to start us out with introductions.
Will.
Well, yeah. Will, but Dr. Boyd, he's going to say Will anyway, but he's going to start us out with introductions, and then Ms. Mathis, Nathan Mathis is going to come. Again, 3 minutes per candidate for introductions, and then we'll begin with our questions. You guys have any questions about anything? All right. Thank you again for being here. There you go.
Thank you so much, moderator. Thank you, Baldwin County Democratic Committee officials and members. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'll be very brief and just say I'm excited about the opportunity to be here to talk a little bit about my platform, to answer your questions. I'm Will Boyd, and I'm running for governor because I want every Alabamian to have a fair shot. I mentioned earlier, I normally say a fair shot at the American dream, but over a month or two, we came to the conclusion that most young people don't know what the American dream is. We feel like the economy is under attack. Healthcare is not in reach. And beyond that, communities are feeling like they're destabilizing. So I look forward to talking about my plan, and thank you again for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Nathan Mathis. I'm an 83-year-old son of sharecroppers in southeast Alabama. I was elected in 1974, the youngest chairman in the state. I was 31 years old at the time. The day I went to work in the courthouse, the first black person to work in that courthouse who wasn't a janitor went to work the day I did, my secretary, Brenda Wright. When it came time to appoint someone to the medical center board, I appointed the first black person to serve on that board. When I was elected in the legislature, I changed the method of elected county commissioners in Houston County from countywide to district system. As a result, Tuskegee University, Mr. Wiley Everton graduate, was elected the first black county commissioner. I also voted to remove the Confederate flag from the state capitol while I was in the legislature. Now you're probably wondering why the 83-year-old man running. When I was in the legislature, I made the deciding vote which allowed Victorland to come into existence. They put a 4% parimutuel tax on dog racing for the city and county schools in Macon County. That brought in a lot of money. But some very smart people came up with putting a little device about the size of a credit card on a slot machine. And as you played the slot machine, the numbers on that card, which looked like a bingo card, they jumped around. Didn't have nothing to do with where you won or lost. But as a result, they got to call themselves playing electronic bingo. And as a result of this, the Indians got to put in slot machines at Atmore, Wetumpka, Tallapoosa. Now then, let's move forward. 2014, the Alabama Porch Creek Indians had bought the Pensacola Greyhound track right down the road here. They offered the state of Florida $1 billion for 5 years to put slot machines in. Now fast forward to 2025. Our Attorney General had approved the Alabama Porch Indians to put in slot machines over here at Mobile and also Birmingham. They had bought both tracks. They got over 1,000 slot machines in each place. Alabama got nothing out of it, folks, not a penny. Over Mississippi, they got 26 casinos. They pay 12% times the gross. The state of Mississippi receives $300 million in taxes each year. 20,000 jobs are created. 4 million economic annual impact from it. I'm proposing if we're gonna do it like we're doing, let's do it right. Put in some modern casinos and tax them, regulate them, and legalize them.
Yes.
All right, so I will, or this is fun. Oh, thank you. Okay. I will be asking questions for both. And so now we will start with the first one. How will you inform people of Alabama about the big, beautiful bill's impact on our state that are not due to kick in until after the midterms?
Ma'am, didn't approve of the big, beautiful bill, so I don't know how all it's gonna affect Alabama. I'll just be honest with you. But I will address the issues when I find out what they are.
One of the biggest concerns I have about the big beautiful bill that I call the big ugly bill is Alabama hospitals are in trouble. And right now, the amount of money that President Trump is allotting to each state is not enough to meet the needs that we have. I propose us expanding Medicaid, and the primary reason I'm doing that is because I believe we have at least 25 hospitals that are being threatened to close. That puts a lot of people who are in rural communities and even urban and suburban communities in places where they might not have any type health care whatsoever. Expansion of Medicaid would bring in about $2 billion of new revenue. It would bring about 286,696 people the opportunity to have health care that don't have it. Beyond that, it would create an opportunity where we can move forward in Alabama and see those 314,000 people who are in ambulatory crisis or deserts, no ambulance around, now have a hospital or an ambulance that can reach them in their critical times of crisis. So the biggest problem I had with that ugly bill was the fact that it really punches Alabama in the gut as it relates to health care.
Yes.
Thank you.
When I was on the county commission, the biggest thing I had to happen, everybody calling me wanting to be on the hospital board. Just rural hospitals and problems we're having in the hospital is not no simple solution. You probably got people on the boards. Some of them don't need to be on the board. They don't know what they're even doing on the board. So you're gonna have to take each hospital one by one and diagnose what the problems are before we know what to do to solve.
I see the red light on this mic. Let me change these batteries out so they don't cut off.
That does not stand for Kappa Alpha.
But again, you want it to be.
It does, it's going out.
I'm sorry, I should have changed my podcast start.
I was surprised today, you all excuse me breaking protocol, but I have a family member, Philip Baldwin, who showed up. He's surprised. I haven't seen him in probably 40 years. We're part of the same fraternity, obviously same family, but he walked up today at your great Democratic function. Aren't we happy to have Philip Baldwin here with us today? Thank you so much for your service and all you've done.
All right, next. What is your plan to protect our right to vote in Alabama? Any combat voter suppression?
Well, personally myself, I've never even, as many times I've run, I've never even had a poll watcher at the polls. I believe the poll workers are honest people, and they're gonna do their job. You know, maybe there's some places where it's bad, but I don't believe it's in Alabama, folks.
I've had the opportunity of being elected twice, serving twice as the Lauderdale County Democratic Executive Committee Chair. That meant that one of my responsibilities outside of my SDEC roles were to make sure that there was election security, partner with people like probate judges, poll watchers, and people that we train to be there. I have problems with the fact that we have legislation like the John Lewis Act and others that are sitting there that punish people for bringing out a bottle of water for somebody who's trying to stand in the line. We have a lot of issues dealing with suppression in our state that people don't recognize every day. We have cases where people walk into the polling areas and let's just say you don't have the proper identification. According to them, you're pulling a provisional ballot. That should not be. I want to combat things that you may hear these Senate candidates talk about. The SAVE Act, the fact that we have an act that's being pushed that's going to cause particularly women whose name may change when they're married to all of a sudden have to produce extra documentation. That is a form of suppression. So any of these tactics that the other side is using to try to stop people, to hinder people from getting to the polls, I have a serious problem with it and I intend to fight it.
Thank you. All right. Next one is, what is your position on establishing a statewide lottery?
Part of my platform is to have a vote on the lottery. And all the proceeds under my plan will go for scholarships for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. We ought to have had the lottery a long time ago, but when they had it, when Governor Seagram was governor, what he didn't realize, the people that owned the dog tracks, he thought was his friends, and they really was his friends, but back behind the background, they was working hard to keep that thing from passing. They wanted all that money to come to the dog tracks.
Alabama has a serious problem. We have teachers who are underpaid. I mentioned to someone earlier today that a teacher tried to come from Florida to Alabama and had to take a $50,000 pay cut. We have a lot of students right now who don't experience what I call educational equity. And I would love it if the kids that are in, I'll just say Greene County, Hale County, Pickens County had the same educational outcomes that you have in Baldwin County. So in order to achieve what I call brain gain instead of brain gain, there are things that I think we can do. The biggest thing, we can expand Medicaid for helping our people out who need health care. But on the lottery side, second most important thing for this state, if we had an educational lottery, it would on the conservative side bring in $800 million to $1 billion. And instead of us educating the kids of Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida, we need to make sure we take care of our kids first.
That's right.
Not bad, one thing. I'm a timeline person. This can't happen overnight, as you probably already heard it alluded to. Right now, lotteries are forbidden by our Constitution. So it will take a 3/5 type of constitutional amendment from our legislators. It will then take a statewide referendum. And then it would take me as governor, or my colleague as governor, moving forward and for about a year, making sure everything is in place so that this lottery can bring the revenues that we want. So even though we're talking about an election in November of 2026, it will likely be early 2029 when we see that $1 billion coming to our state.
All right, next, what will you do to protect and restore life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for the LGBTQ community, especially the trans community?
Well, I had a daughter who was gay, and if you want to see my daughter, pull up Ellen DeGeneres show with guest Nathan Mathis, December 15, 2017. And if you want to go a little further, pull up BuzzFeed video, Nathan Mathis and daughter Patty Sue Mathis. Gay people have rights just like people that are not gay. Our Bill of Rights says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When I found out my daughter was gay, she was a senior in high school, and I showed my ass. I really did. I've been taught in church all my life about how gay people was wrong, but I took my daughter up to UAB hospital, made an appointment when I found out, to show you how naive I was. We went in, the doctors did blood work on my daughter all afternoon. Called us in there about 3:30, her mother and myself. The doctor said, young lady, her name was Patty, said, Patty, you can't help the way you are. There's nothing we can do. I said, man, this doctor's crazy to bad. So we went to more doctors, more psychiatrists, everything. Everyone told my daughter the same thing. Patty, you can't help the way you are. That's what made me change my mind. And finally, my daughter committed suicide. And that's what I was doing on the Ellen show. I took a sign out to Roy Moore's rally that he had the night before the election when he was trying to be our United States Senator. And I just thought how terrible it must be to have a United States Senator that thinks a person's gay, they committing a crime because they're gay. That's what he said. And that's why I did what I did. But we got people that's not born like we are. We're all different. And it's time we quit trying to use gay people as a whipping post every time we have an election. They have rights. Straight people have rights. And we need to start treating one another like we should. Thank you.
As always, thank you for your service, and of course, Patty, in that story. That's where I learned about you and your journey. Alabama has become, sadly, a hate state instead of a hope state. And since 2016, I've pointed out that I wanted to make sure that anyone identifying as an LGBTQAI plus community person is protected in Alabama. I have fought and fought and fought to make sure that we have equal opportunities for everyone. That's why I said if everyone has a fair shot. Too often in Alabama, we've seen where legislative sessions have been reduced to what we call wars relating to culture. In 2025, we were arguing about bathrooms. In 2025, we're arguing about whether or not gender affirming drugs could be used or not be used. We're deciding who is a male, who is a female. Definitions are coming forth. Instead of dealing with issues that relate to all Alabamians, they chose to focus on one small area. It may be an area that Democrats have done well addressing, but Alabama has failed people in the community. So we have to do much more to make sure that we're focusing on inclusion. My wife and I focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in our roles and our jobs outside of politics, and it's something that I think needs to be addressed statewide. I would love if more of our legislators would spend their time understanding some of the things that I heard Mr. Martin talk about earlier today and what we preach and talk about every day. And I think our state would be a more inviting place. I can talk about bringing jobs. I can talk about putting hospitals in place. I can talk about stabilizing communities. But when people look at Alabama, they already look at, sadly, our state as a backward state. And so we have to combat all of those different stereotypes by showing that we are an inclusive state that embraces everyone.
What is your main campaign message and its difference from your opponent?
I'll go first this time. I've just been saying I want every Alabamian to have a shot. You've heard me say it multiple times. I think that in Alabama, this is important to hear over and over again because we have an economy that may be doing well by some people's standards. We may have low unemployment, but the reality is there are a lot of people who can't get into the right jobs, higher paying jobs, because they don't have the right skill set. So that's why I push for workforce readjustment or workforce development. From the hospital point of view, talking about the need for healthcare. Healthcare is out of reach. I've served on a hospital board. My family's members have served on hospital boards. We understand what is needed. There's so many people right now who are dying in Alabama because they don't have access to healthcare. 900,000 plus people in poverty since I've been working in Alabama, serving in Alabama. That is unfortunate. When you see the things that I've seen lately, I've been at gatherings like this where people walk up to me and teeth are missing. And they say, I was in an accident, my car rolled 3 times, the fire truck came, and the team asked me that I want to phone a friend to drive me to a hospital that's an hour away. I know Dakarai and I know Kyle probably heard me say this story at least 2 or 3 times. It's truth. It's sad in Alabama that we have hospitals that are more than an hour drive away. Requires ambulances in some counties where I'm in Hale County quite a bit. They have in one area 4 ambulances, only 2 work at any given time. And one of them, if not 2 of them, are always transporting people to dialysis in Tuscaloosa. In Pickens County, we right now have situations where if you get hurt, you have to drive to Mississippi or to Tuscaloosa. In several counties I drove to come here today, I was gonna say last night / today, I ran through counties with no hospitals. And so I don't know what Mr. Martin talks about relative to the fair shot, but community-wise, I don't just talk about LGBTQAI+, don't just talk about hospitals, don't just talk about jobs. I talk about a complete overhaul of the Alabama Department of Corrections. I talk about how we need to move into day 1, an independent audit, day 365, showing a dashboard as to what we need to do to fix our prison systems. Our opponent on the other side in the general election wants to spend $1.3 billion on building prisons or cages rather than putting that money on children. That should be concerning to anybody.
I want to correct my friend here. He called me Mr. Martin. We got we got a guy running in the primary named Martin.
Mathis.
And so I'll tell you how I got the name Mathis. I didn't ever know my granddaddy, but before I was born, we was Matthews, TTHEWS. Well, Papa got in a little trouble. He got caught making shine. Sent him off for a couple of years. That's before my time, but I was always told as a young boy, I found out the story about being Matthews, and all of a sudden we was IS Mathis. So I wondered how that happened. Well, they said, Papa said his mail kept getting mixed up. But I suspect the way our name got changed was Papa probably changed it because of what happened about the chime. Anyway, I want to tell you a little story about the United States Senator we got running for governor. The true story. It's real personal to me. I got one grandson. Our United States Senator helped some people. I don't know who they are, but it's right up the road here from where we are. Atmore, Alabama. He helped them get over $100 million to put in a peanut shelling storage facility. They bought peanuts in year 21, 22, 2023. A board was created after it was put in place. It was called Coastal Peanut Growers. Have y'all ever heard of that? They kept it real quiet. It hadn't been in the paper very much. But my grandson bought $150,000 worth of stock. 198 other people bought stock in it. They carried peanuts over there years 21, 22, 2023. I'd helped my grandson and encouraged him to buy a 400-acre farm. He bought it on a credit at the bank. Still owed money on it. In 2023, he took 3,000 tons of peanuts from Dothan over to Atmore. Because when you bought stock, you had to sign a paper. You'd market your peanuts through Coastal Peanut Growers. He could have sold all his peanuts at home for $650 a ton. He took them over to Coastal up at Atmore. He got $355 a ton. Promised some more money to come. All right, as soon as the 2023 crop was in the house, the board wanted to borrow more money from the bank to operate with. The bank said, well, we're going to do an inventory first. They did an inventory. When they did, many tons of peanuts missing. I don't know how many is, but it was a lot. It was so bad the bank said, we're not loaning you any more money. And when you said that, the whole board resigned in one day. And this board was all alpha people, high up alpha people. But they resigned in one day. The place sitting over there now went bankrupt. They've got it leased or rented to Golden Peanut Company. No jobs now. The governor spoke. The United States Senator spoke the day it opened. My grandson asked me before he bought the stock. I didn't give him a recommendation. But you think about it, if you was talking to your grandson, if something the governor was pushing and the United States Senator was pushing, wouldn't you think that would be a safe investment for your grandson? Well, my grandson don't have a farm anymore. He sold his farm 3 months ago because he couldn't make the payments. The bank got all the money. That's a true story, folks. And yet that same person is going to tell you he knows how to recruit industry for this state. Something wrong with this picture. Yes, sir. We better look and think about it. Now this man right here, I was told I was coming to a debate. This man here's a good man. I'm not trying to debate any of it. As far as I'm concerned, every Democrat candidate we got's a good person. They all got an idea about what they want to do, just like I do. One of my ideas is, and not just the idea, if I get elected, this is going to happen. I'm going to lower the assessment ratio on Class 3 property from 10% to 5%. And then just have reappraisals once every 5 years instead of annually like they do now. And what that would mean for everybody here, your property taxes on your houses would be half what they are now. It's time we quit trying to run state government on the backs of Alabamians who are trying to own a home. But I'm very honored you come here. But one thing I want to say before I stop. You people here, y'all sitting on a time bomb. If you'll pick that picture up right there on them posters, you'll see a picture of the coal ash pond that's located 25 miles north of Mobile. Look at it, folks. If that dam breaks or y'all have a 25-year flood down here, you're going to have the worst environmental disaster Alabama has ever seen. All that stuff is going to come right down here to your bay. If you want to see what it do, pull up Google on your phone, Kingston, Tennessee, coal ash spill, TBA. Over 30 people who were hired to clean up that mess up there in Kingston died from it. Over 200 people filed suit. They settled out of court, but they had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. But you people here need to get fired up and get that stuff hauled out before you have that disaster I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Okay. Currently, Alabama ranks 49th in veterans health care, and many are calling for the privatization of VA. Should the VA be privatized?
First of all, I thank everyone for the service, anyone who served here. I just mentioned a little while ago under the canopy that we have over 300 people who are veterans who slept outside last night, not in a home. We have over 300,000 in Alabama who need help, need services. That's why I've talked about the need for treatment centers all over the state to make sure that they have the help, especially from a mental perspective. I would argue that anything that the federal government is seeking to do relating to privatization needs to really be scrutinized, and I would push back against it because it usually results in certain people being enriched rather than all people being taken care of. A point example is, again, with the Medicaid issue. Blue Cross and Blue Shield could very well offer a plan that could cover all 282,696 people who aren't covered today to bring down that uninsured rate, to help us with uncompensated care. But the reality is it's not going to bring us the benefit that I keep talking about, the $228 million investment or 22.8 and a $394 million return. So again, I would be opposed to privatization of the VA, even though I know people work for the VA. I know my father is fully disabled. He served in a foreign theater and goes to the VA. But in reality, we need them to have treatments, centers that are available so they can have all the health care they need and not allow someone to dictate what they should and should not have.
I hadn't been too long, went with a veteran over to Biloxi to Veterans Hospital, and I was impressed with how they treated him. They treated him real good. They had him to fill out papers, and they looked at his claim, and just about 2 months ago he got approved, and he's drawing a small pension now. but I'm for helping the veterans have the best life they can. I was fortunate enough that I got trained to go to Vietnam, but I was fortunate enough not to have to go. But these folks that went to war and served for us where we got these freedoms we got now, we need to do all we can to take care of them because they took care of us.
Okay, so these next two kind of go together, so we're going to combine a little bit. Alabama provides 33 million federal tax dollars to Israel and has 18 million in bonds to Israel. Currently, the world news categorizes their actions in Palestine and Lebanon as a genocide. How are you going to remove our nation from being attached to that and focus on rebuilding our state and removing the Israeli occupation from our politics? And then the second one was, would you ever accept money from any foreign PAC or group?
Great questions, two wrapped up in one. I'll be very brief and say this. As governor, I cannot affect a lot of that legislation that is just mentioned. However, I do not believe that any of our legislators should be taking AIPAC money. I would not take AIPAC money. We can talk about Israeli bonds, but my overarching concern I have for Israel is I may pray for its peace like I do anywhere else, peace of Jerusalem. But the reality is we're spending on this war right now millions of dollars for one missile to knock down a $35,000 rocket. When we have places in Alabama that still have black water, Lafayette in Chambers County, Lowndes County, I know you're eating crawfish, crawdads, but they don't have septic and sewer. And so 25,000 people are experiencing septic crisis. So I have a problem when we're sending a lot of money abroad. I understand I take a multilateral approach to foreign policy, but again, that's a federal office. I'm talking about statewide office now as governor, chief executive of the state. I believe we need to protect the people internally by making sure foreign money does not influence people who are at the state level, governor, all the way through the constitutional offices. We should refuse that money. Furthermore, I want to be more deliberative about saying when I'm in office, I want to push for you being able to raise money only in your district. It should not be that you are able to bring tons of money in from another country for that matter. But with Citizens United stepping into the role of people, we're seeing a lot of dark money has entered into this gubernatorial race on the other side, as well as other statewide offices. So it makes you wonder who's really running the state of Alabama and what concerns do they have about the people of Alabama. Truth be told, and I'm being quiet, my 3 minutes is probably up. If we have so many people who are sick and all it takes is the governor to expand Medicaid in just one swift stroke of a pen or an action, and if just going towards an educational lottery can be done as we proposed here today, why do our legislators leave us in the position we're in? Somebody seems to be paid off or be receiving money from the outside. What I say is getting me in the sights of people. They want to take me out for it, but I think we need more leaders who are not influenced by money and will speak the truth no matter what consequences it may bring.
You know, the problem over in Israel, you can read in the Bible, Abraham had a wife named Sarah. She was real old, but God had promised to have a child. Sarah got impatient. She told him to go into Hagar, her concubine, her handmaid. Well, he did. When he did, she got pregnant, had Ishmael. And later on, then Sarah got pregnant at old age, and Isaac was born. Well, Sarah was jealous of Ishmael then all of a sudden. She had, Abraham said, the victim, get him out of here. So he did. He made them leave. You know, people over there hate one another. They all descendants of Abraham, and they're going to continue to hate one another and fight one another. But as governor, I wouldn't have anything I could do about it except depend on whoever you elect in Congress to see about it, because the governor don't have anything to do with genocide and things like that. And you know, some of these things we have, problems we have, no matter who you elect governor, they're not gonna know all the answers. If you don't have nobody that smart, you're gonna have to get educated and learn, and once you learn, then you can address the issue. But that issue there is something that, as governor, I wouldn't be able to do anything about.
Next, what is your opinion on mandatory party designation for voting?
We have some. Sorry. There are independents who are under the canopy with us right now. At least you told me you are. I have a problem with closed primaries in the sense that you have to declare your party whenever you go to a polling place. I make sure that when I'm elected governor, when we are able to have this opportunity to move forward, I will not be just a Democratic governor. I will be a governor who serves Republicans, independents, and Democrats. I will serve people who are affiliated with party just as well as those who are not. Right now, we're seeing where independents are having to decide which way they need to go, where they need to vote. And so, answer your question very directly, I have a problem with the fact that we have not only the way we handle the voting process, but we do have some people in polling places right now that whenever a choice is being made, when someone's walking in, I'll just say the distance you are from me right now, they'll ask, are you pulling a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot? That is not appropriate. I believe it should be that everyone receives a ballot. You decide which way you're going to go. This is a private affair. Even if we're bold Democrats, even if you may be a proud Republican or proud independent, I don't believe that you have to announce your party when you're going to do your sacred duty of casting your ballot.
When I was in the legislature, I thought the best plan would be to put everybody's name. Let's say you had 5 people running for governor. You had 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent. You just put everybody's name on the list, and you put a little emblem over the side of them. You go in there and you vote for who you want to. And sometimes election bill with them one time. But I found out that the Republican Party was opposed to that, and the Democrat Party both. So we got the system we got now. You know, and if you want something hard to do, try to run as an independent and get them signatures. You'll get you a good education. That's not no easy job. People won't sign them papers for you to run as an independent. But anyway, our present system works, and we got some good honest people going to be running them polls. And I don't believe we're going to have no election problems in Alabama. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
All right. There has been an influx of flock cameras, and recently there have been reports of them being used to track No Kings attendees. What would you do to either prohibit their use or to ensure they're only used for legitimate law enforcement?
I have serious problems with the cameras. It's no secret I've been at No Kings rallies. I've read the Declaration of Independence. I've spoken, and people have used those cameras to look at even people on my team and to even attack us and come at us. I believe whenever you're stepping out with your ability to have free speech, your freedom to do that, to assemble, should not be challenged. I understand body cams for police officers. I support that. That's another matter altogether. But as it relates to cameras being trained on individuals at rallies, at gatherings of the such, I think that is wrong. I think it's, in many ways, almost an invasion of a person's privacy.
I agree 100%. I don't think we need those cameras. You know, that should be private, what you do.
All right. How will you help preserve our public lands in state and national parks?
Well, right now we have a tendency the federal government wants to drill oil on all of them. But if we don't keep some of these parks, and first thing you know, might not be us, but our ancestors look around, they won't have any national parks. It'll all be gone. So we got to stick up and maintain them, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir. As governor, I would work with the Department of Interior at the federal level to ensure these lands are protected. But let me take a moment just to say, Google Alabama's land, and you'll find that foreigners own a lot of our timber. We're practically giving it away. Start looking at our farmland, and you'll notice that bigger organizations, companies, corporations are buying away farmland from our smaller farmers. Start looking at the fact that a lot of buildings are being erected in places that is causing erosion, especially in Baldwin County, Mobile County, where you're having runoff issues. So as governor, I have to make sure from a protection of the land standpoint, I do this main thing. I tie my economic policy into my environmental policy. And whenever you're trying to come in and build, whenever you're trying to come in and excavate or do whatever it may be, let's make sure, including a data center, let's make sure that we are not leaving the earth or the land worse than it was when we got there. One last statement that's related, but not really related. African Americans suffer and they lag behind counterparts by 500 years in terms of wealth. One of the main reasons we lag behind in terms of wealth is it relates to land. We lose a lot of land because of titles not being clear, etc. So one of the things I'm going to do as governor is make sure I close that 500-year gap with just my first year policy, reversing that bad policy that Alabama has. We need to stop giving our land away, and we need to start protecting the land and the people that own it.
So these last two questions are very similar, so we're going to kind of combine them. The first one, with the dire situation in rural Alabama healthcare, what would you do to improve the situation? And then also, each county has a health department. Do you support expanding their services, and if so, how?
Repeat that last question.
Each county has a health department. Do you support expanding their services, and if so, how?
Well, the way I would improve our health care and improve the services, if people elect me and I get these casinos put in $300 million, I can solve quite a few problems. But you can't solve these problems without money. That's how I would solve them. Now, some of these, like I said, some of these hospitals, you're going to have a study done, and you're going to have to weed out those people you got on that board that just want to be on there for prestige. No joke, when you're a county commissioner, people will worry you to death wanting to be on the hospital board. That's a prestige thing to them. We don't need that kind of person on the board. We need somebody on there that's going to try to, do right, help people like it should.
I won't rehearse the numbers again about the $22.8 million and $394 return, also the $2 billion that comes to our state. But I will say this. We need to stop anything that is causing our healthcare system to fail us. And that primarily is the fact that we're not investing in our hospitals as much as we should. From a mental health perspective and I'll just say traditional health perspective, there needs to be parity. We need to see, I believe, the same amount of dollars going both ways. From a health department, county by county issue, addressing each issue by county, I would say, first of all, mental health is big. We're not addressing it as we should. I would make changes to how we're addressing infant mortality. We want to see more babies that are not in a place we call FTT, failure to thrive, but they're able to make it out of NICU, make it out of anywhere they may be treated and succeed and do well. We need to bring down the maternal mortality rates by county, which means we stop women from dying during the childbirthing process. We need to make sure women's reproductive health is protected county by county and make sure that money is available so that women do not die in Alabama trying to bring forth life or even die in the process. We need to have what I've called and others have called federally qualified healthcare centers in our communities, in our counties that can even offer pap smears. They can offer small tests that may be administered by way of nurse practitioners. We need more midwives, doulas, who are able to help women out. We need mainly county hospitals up and running because right now we have people who have 45-minute commutes to hospitals, and that is not good. So that's where I would put that money to make sure that our communities do better. Why is that important? When we have stronger communities, and again, I'm just frustrated that in 2026, we don't mind sending billions around the world. We don't even have the end of the line broadband system in place. And so by 2028, I want 98% of our state covered in broadband so that these county hospitals can also offer steps beyond telehealth services, but allow doctors from different areas, perhaps UAB, perhaps from someplace in Madison County, to be able to, by telehealth services, come into counties surrounding Baldwin, or maybe those that are a little further east or north, and make sure that they have everything they need. So this is why healthcare is important. Healthier communities result in a healthier workforce. A healthier workforce results in a stronger economy, and Alabama ends up doing much better.
Awesome, thank you so much. Another round of applause for both members.
All right, thank you both so much. Can we get this stool over here? We're not gonna take a break per se, but we have a couple of other candidates that are here. They're gonna come introduce themselves as we transition, and please stay put because we have our Senate candidates coming up. But we want to have a representative from Everett West's campaign for the Senate come up and introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about Everett. And then we also have Jeff Ramsey here. There is Jeff. Jeff is gonna come up. We're gonna give him 3 minutes apiece. Jeff is running for PSC, which is a statewide office. So Jeff is gonna come up and tell us a little bit about himself as well. So can we get a representative from the campaign to come over and speak? Who's speaking?
Miss Brown.
Okay, Ms. Brown, you can stand right there.
Hello, everyone. Okay, we're here and to represent Everett West for Senator for the U.S. And we want to thank everybody for allowing us this opportunity. And just let you know that Everett West is the best, so we can pull out all this mess.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. Everett is out of the Birmingham area, right? He's out of the Birmingham area. So, Jeff, come on up, man, and tell us about yourself.
Man, I gotta get done with my cookie first.
Oh,
Yeah. Call me a bad time. I'll have a little sweet tooth. But look, my name's Jeff Ramsey. I'm a 15-year electrician, not a politician. And I have a feeling like Alabama Power has made a lot of profit off of working class folks in Alabama. I don't know if everybody here agrees with that or not, but if we look at their profit records in the last 20 plus years, it's more and more and more and more. When does it stop? We're supposed to have a PSC regulate that, make sure that Alabama Power is doing right by the working class folks of Alabama. Last time I checked, it looks like their campaign contributions and what they do don't match with what we need from them, which is accountability and transparency at the PSC. So, being an electrician, I figured that was a good spot for me to run and try to make a difference for folks in Alabama. All right. So, we have to have transparency at the PSC. We have to have accountability at the PSC. We need open door meetings at the Public Service Commissioner. We need explanations of why there's more data centers being approved. There's residential power going up. There's solar panel farms being built, and there's no rate case. So we have all the time to talk about those things, but we don't have time to talk about how much power costs in the state, which is an issue. How much more rambling do I want to do? How much more rambling do I want to do? I guess I should probably start with what the PSC is. It's a 3-member board that is supposed to, like I said, guarantee accountability at the rate case at the rates of Alabama Power and any privately owned business that offers a public utility. There's a couple of water departments and there's some natural gas that goes in there too. But Alabama Power is the wolf in sheep's clothing here. They set the margins for everywhere else. So there's other utilities that use Alabama Power as a piggyback to then charge power. So even if you don't have Alabama Power, you still might pay an increased rate just because the big bad wolf is charging a big rate and they can get away with charging just a little bit less and they can just look to that one and say, hey, at least we're not that bad. And I'm tired of a government that says, at least we're not doing that, what they're doing over there. That's a problem for me, for working class folks, for my family and friends, and for other people in the community. So that being the case, May 19th, I do have a primary challenger, so I'm not Clyde. I will be on the ballot on May 19th. But then if we do right, I'll be on the ballot November the 3rd too. All right? So if anybody's got any questions about my policy or my platform, or to get into the weeds about what we can do to make a change, a real change for working class folks. a $50 reduction on your power bill is a real change. A $150 power reduction is a real change. And that's what we need. We need relief right now. You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
Electric charging stations in Alabama. Are there any?
Are there any?
Do we need more?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
she owns a Rivian too. That's
yeah.
why I was asking.
Well, I bought a Tesla back in 2021 and drove it for over 100,000 miles to understand the electricity behind it. I built an electric go-kart when I was a kid. Like I said, I've always been interested in alternative power and energy and stuff like that. We don't need just electric chargers. We need electric chargers that are ran by a state company that aren't being built for profit. That's what we actually need. Alabama Power actually has some electric charge stations that they don't let the public use. Why would you build a service to only have it for your personal self? That seems greedy to me. We're paying, Alabama Power ratepayers are paying to have charging stations that we don't have access to as electric drivers. That's a problem. That's an issue. So we need more state-ran programs that aren't out for profit. They're out for people. You know, and that's what I look to do in the PSC position.
Thank you, Jeff. For those of you who don't know, that Jeff is TikTok famous. He might be other ways famous, but he is Alabama fellow on TikTok. So he is definitely TikTok famous. How many followers do you have, Jeff? You think?
How many's here?
No. Don't even try it, man. Don't even try it. He probably got 1 million followers on TikTok. So certainly look him up, Alabama fellow. Look, we're excited to have two of the Senate candidates here with us. We have Kyle Sweetser and Dakarai Larriett here. Dakarai, did I get your name right? Pretty close, huh? Yeah. Pretty close. I have this serious Southern accent. Most people think I'm from New Orleans. I actually grew up in Virginia and have traveled the world because I've lived everywhere. Germany, I was in the military. So I've lived all over the world twice, and I still have the same accent. So I just didn't bother to try to get rid of it because it's part of me. That's who I am, right? So if you two would come on up. Michelle, you gonna talk? Come on up, Michelle. Yeah, that's right. Come on up, Michelle. Michelle's gonna tell a little bit about herself. Do we have any other candidates here that I don't know about?
Technically, my husband. Your husband.
Your husband? Where is he? He's still over there in the team. So you gonna introduce both?
Sure, I'll introduce both of us. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Tollefson. You guys may know me from the Baldwin County Democratic Executive Committee, and if not, maybe the Eastern Shore Democrats. I'm the secretary for them, and I'm the chair of the tech committee for the county level. But I have, and so is my husband, we're running for SDEC. That is the spot that you vote for that gives you representation at the state party. If you didn't know that was an elected position, that's a problem. And that's what hopefully me and my husband are going up there to solve. One of the issues we have here in Alabama is it's like we live in 1912 when it comes to technology. I'm a notary public. You know, we still have to do a wet signature in this day and age. Yeah. There's no electronic signature here in the state of Alabama for a notary public. Yeah. Overnight it. That's ridiculous. So that's the kind of technology that we're dealing with anyway in this state. When we get to the SDEC level, there's absolutely nothing. Nothing. We should have our hands on data that tells us what's happening, how it's happening, and how we can engage everyone here. We shouldn't have to dig and create these things on the side that become siloed and not shared. It is a group effort. We all come together, we all work together for a common cause, and that is equality. That is access to education and resources that every person should have, regardless of the color of their skin, what sex they were born, what gender they identify as. That should not matter. We should have everything that we need at our fingertips. So that's what I'm hoping to bring. It's what I hope I've brought so far to this county. And I'm hoping to extend it at the state level so we as a party, we as the citizens and people can continue to grow. And my husband's in the same vein.
What district and where is that?
Thank you. That is District 96. That covers this area here. It covers from Montrose, just north of Fairhope, all the way through Daphne into Bell Forest and into Spanish Fort. So in Stockton, so I'm a Stockton as well. So me and my husband, we do have a primary, so we will be on May 19th ballot. Please, please, please go out and vote, please. Primaries are, this time of year, midterms are populist. Every vote counts, even when you don't think your vote counts. It counts. There's a lot on the line. Please get out there and vote.
Say your name.
Michelle Tollefson. Yes.
Thank you. Just to echo what you said, it's important, extremely important for us to get out on this primary and vote. Everybody in your household, your grandkids, everybody that you know, make sure that they're registered to vote. And they are purging voting rolls. So make sure you check your registration because May 4th is the deadline to register for the primary to vote. So look at your registration. I actually have 2 cards over there on my table that you can just scan the code, scan the QR code and see whether you're registered to vote or not. And that came from the League of Women Voters. They couldn't be out here. They're not supposed to be out here. They're nonpartisan, right? But I did take 2 of their cards so we can use them to find out whether we're registered or not. So scan the code. Once we're finished, come over, scan the code, find out whether you're registered or not. If you don't know exactly what district you're in, you'll be able to see all of that as well. But it's important. Again, May 4th is the deadline to register for the May 19th primary. Come on up, Kyle and Dakarai, come on up. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll go over the rules one more time for that. 3 minutes apiece to introduce yourselves, and then you'll have 3 minutes apiece to answer the question. Okay. Move it over a little.
Yeah, we just a little rearranged.
Yeah, good deal. So, and then you'll have 3 minutes apiece to answer the questions. If, again, you all call each other's name out in your answer, then the other person has time to respond to the question. We're gonna we went for the whole hour for the governors, but we'll see. I don't know how many questions we have for you all, and I think a lot of them were similar, so it might not be as many questions. So,
we have a list of the yes, no with the paddles too. We've got another list of the yes, no questions, and we have the paddles if you want to add it.
Okay. I thought we weren't doing it. Okay. Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. So, Dakarai, I think you're up first, and just introduce yourself. 3 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Clyde, and thank you all organizers. Thank you for coming out. Give yourselves a round of applause for supporting the Democratic process. We'll come back to you. Too much is at stake this May 19th, and especially this November 3rd. We have $4 gas. I saw it. I just drove from Birmingham. As a result of an illegal war of choice that is putting our brave men and women at unnecessary risk. We have a healthcare system that's in shambles. Spoke about that a little bit earlier. Folks do not have access. If you remember, the whole point of the shutdown last year was to get those ACA subsidies. Still hasn't happened. I'm so sick of the failing school systems. We have a Department of Education being run by a wrestler. A wrestler, guys. It's ridiculous. And let's not even talk about Robert F. Kennedy. We deserve better. We deserve so much better. We deserve leaders who know what the issues are and have plans to fix them. My name is Dakarai Larriett, and I am day one ready to serve you in the United States Senate. I want to share just a little bit about me, but this is about you, and we're so excited for your questions today. For starters, I'm a born and raised Alabamian. I love this state. I want to see us all do better. And we've got to start making some smart investments in our state and in us if we want to see that. And that is why I've developed this policy proposal that is focused on investing in Alabamians through healthcare, through education, through economic opportunity, and through public safety. And I'll just run through a few of them and why they're so important to me. When you're sick, you simply are not your best. And we are living in a society of sick people. We've got to start investing immediately. Education, it breaks the poverty cycle. I've seen it happen in my own family. Public safety. I was here for Joe Kane Day. I was actually in Mobile. I walked through a mass shooting, you guys. A mass shooting. bloody bodies in the street. I will never forget that scene. We've got to create smart laws that keep our youth and ourselves safe and economic opportunity. Too many of us are getting left behind. It's not right. It's not right. I travel the state and people say they can't afford to even live in their communities anymore, especially in North Alabama, in the Huntsville area. All these businesses are coming. We're giving them incentives, which, by the way, are our tax dollars. Our roads get crowded, and then we can't afford the housing. So we have real work to do. I'm committed to doing this for you every single day in the United States Senate. My background is 20 years of experience in corporate America, solving complex problems, bringing people together in a collaborative manner, fighting for DEI. Who likes DEI? Diversity, equity, inclusion. These things matter. 20 years of experience in public service, advocating for unhoused youth, fighting the HIV epidemic. I spent time in public health, in particular, fighting the opioid crisis. Here in Alabama, I joined the board of University of Alabama and fought for quality, affordable education without discrimination for everyone. My decision to run this cycle was born out of my own wrongful arrest in 2024. I've never received justice from that day. I don't want that to happen to anyone else. I've already started to author legislation and go to the State House to protect all of us in our interactions with law enforcement. My name is Dakarai, Larriett. I'm so excited to be here today. Please stop by my table, grab a fan. We're using my book, which talks about my wrongful arrest, which became a national news story, as a fundraiser. So please stop by. We also are asking for you to get involved. We have 3 weeks to go. Use your voice. We need phone bankers throughout the state so we can get this message out and flip this seat in November. You think we can flip it in November? All right, thank you so much for having us here today. I'm Dakarai.
Hey y'all, my name's Kyle Sweetser and I'm running for United States Senate here in Alabama. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to speak to all y'all today. So I'm a Mobile, Alabama native. I was born and raised here. I graduated from Baker High School, got a football scholarship to West Point. So went up to West Point, went to USMAPS, which was a prep school for a year. Played a season at West Point. I was injured pretty badly. Got an honorable discharge. Came back, helped the family business turn itself around because down here at that time it was a recession. So I helped move the business from the yellow pages to the internet. When the Deepwater Horizon blew, I got straight to work. I worked as a small boat captain, getting after it, keeping oil off of our beaches. In 2016, I got my business license, and I started out going out before my regular work at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, getting people out of their garages, working on garage doors. That way they could go to work. But through that, post-2016, I'll tell you, I started just noticing its severe change in our society. The fabric of our society is being torn apart by Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. I was a former Republican voter. And so I come to you here today as a convert. So over the years, and leading into 2018, seeing what had happened to our country, to the people here, to where folks couldn't even eat dinner, Thanksgiving dinner with each other anymore, their own families, was a big motivator for me. In 2018, I got to see steel tariffs and how they actually work, and how those illegal taxes through the president, not through Congress, affect places like Alabama the most, where we are 49th in income, and we know all too well, because we also have some of the highest sales tax in the nation, how much regressive taxes harm us and keep our state in poverty. January 6, 2021, that's whenever I started speaking up. I decided I had to do everything in my power to fight back against the MAGA movement. I started speaking out and doing everything that I could. I ticked off the right people through my national activism. And so Kamala Harris invited me to speak at the Democratic National Convention, where I delivered a speech on tariffs, protectionism, and the direction our country was going under Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. So going into 2025, I decided to run for U.S. Senate. to rein in the executive office that is clearly out of control. The Supreme Court ruled that the president is above the law. One of the things that Trump's lawyers brought to this ruling, it led to this. They said that the president could use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political opponent. That is what we're up against. You need someone that's not afraid to stand up to Donald Trump and his thugs up there in Washington, D.C. I want to pass legislation that undoes this Supreme Court ruling. No one shall be above the law in our country. I want to push for a constitutional amendment to rein in the president's power to pardon, which has been abused. And I want to reassert congressional authority over tariffs. Immigration. You look at what's happening with immigration, it's tearing our country apart. I want to pass immigration legislation because what's happening right now is fiscally irresponsible, unconstitutional, and it's downright immoral. The folks that are here doing the hard work that cannot be replaced, that are a vital part of our society, we need to provide a pathway to citizenship for those folks. And the last thing I want to do is I want to push for clean water initiatives across the state and really across our country. You look at Alabama, we are the most biodiverse state in the entire nation. We need to be proud of that. We need to protect that. And we also need to get money into communities here like Lowndes County, where 1 out of every 3 people has an intestinal hookworm, like we live in a third world country, and we're just supposed to be okay with that? This administration cut the funding to that community. He called it DEI because it was to a minority community. So I want to make sure that we have the funding here in the state to really clean up our waterways and make sure that our kids are left with a better country than what they were born into. Thank y'all so much. I'd really like to earn y'all's vote on May 19th, and I'm very, very anxious to get after this and get to your questions.
We good? Good? Okay, gentlemen, we can keep the monologuing down to a minimum for the questions. That would be great.
We have 3 minutes.
Who's first? Who's first?
Kyle has the mic in his hand.
Okay. As a U.S. Senator, what would be your first priority for holding Trump accountable for his crimes?
Passing legislation that undoes a Supreme Court ruling that says the president is above the law. That way we can actually have accountability, because right now, until you do that, you can't prosecute him.
I think accountability starts with using every single lever we have legislatively. And that means we have to be draconian and go back to the 1800s. Every single power, if it's a sergeant at arms. We've seen that, unfortunately, impeachment and removal has been very, very difficult, but maybe we need to aim for these secretaries and just basically jam up every single operation. We were successful in getting Kristi Noem out. Looks like Pam Bondi was, the next one, and who knows who's next. I'm hearing Robert F. Kennedy. So we've got to stay on the administration, slow them down as much as we can, and then fight for the majority. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game. We've got to win both houses if we're going to do anything. And Terry still talks a lot about this. We don't have the numbers now. We've got to win big. We need you all to come out on May 19th and November 3rd.
Thank you. Equality health care for veterans, elderly, disabled, and mental illness. What would you do to help those people? You got the microphone. You have the microphone. You need to answer.
Thank you so much. Well, I spent last summer up in Washington at the Congressional Black Caucus and sat in on a beautiful panel hosted by the caucus and chaired by General Honore, and learn about these very issues. We're losing 22 of our brave men and women every single day to suicide. So we've got to prioritize mental health, and we've got to fully fund the VA. It should not even be a debate when we're talking about $1.5 trillion for the Department of War or Department of Defense, whatever they want to call it this week. But then we're talking about balancing the budget on the backs of veterans. Is unacceptable. Unacceptable. I won't stand for it. My father is a veteran and also faced many challenges after service. It is very stressful work. So we've got to make it a priority. We have to codify it with our values. And then the next step is truly, from a Senate perspective, confirming leaders who will do right by our veterans.
So we need to make sure that we fund research into mental health, especially Dakarai mentioned suicide, and that is a very important number to highlight. You look at how many folks, how many veterans are taking their own life. We shouldn't accept that. So we need to come up with a tangible plan. Like with most of healthcare, folks up in DC and nationally, they'll give you a broad talking point. They'll say healthcare, or they'll say veteran suicide rates, but we need to figure out a plan. We need to have a plan. So we need to push leadership and leverage on the Senate leadership to have them come up with something that's actually tangible that we can talk about here and bring everybody together on in the Democratic Party. So another issue that we have, there's not enough veterans hospitals. There's not enough going into the VA. We need to make sure that's funded well. We need to make sure that the folks that are there are making enough money to get by, and their wages are increasing with the cost increase that we are currently all dealing with.
Follow up to that question. There's been talk of privatizing the VA. Would y'all support that if you're Senate?
No. The answer is no. We have to be creative, however. So we were in Spanish Fort, I believe about 2 weeks ago, at a veterans panel, and learned that veterans in the vicinity are traveling 90 minutes each way to care to Mississippi, guys. Y'all, this is unacceptable. So there may be situations where we want to give them access to a local facility because of the commuting, but overall, we have a responsibility. When you make that sacrifice to serve this country, you should have dedicated care that knows what you need, and you're not able or not being forced to jump through hoops to get it through a privatized service.
What in your campaign would actually motivate voters to go to the polls and vote?
This campaign started from a point of listening. I said, we need leaders who listen. So I got a lot of heat in the beginning because folks were like, well, what are your positions? I want to see your position page. And I said, this is a public service role. I need to actually go out and ask people what they want. And that's what I did last summer. And we polled hundreds of Alabamians, and that's how we ultimately came up with this policy proposal. So it starts from actually pushing for policies and creating legislation that they care about, and then meeting them where they are. So we are meeting people in their churches. So we go out and canvass the churches every single weekend. We're meeting them in the nightclubs. We are meeting people every single place they are. We're talking to young people. We're talking to old people. So we've got to get people motivated and then push for legislation. That's our chief role, is legislation. So I actually spoke to someone from Australia where they are mandated to vote, or they get a small fine, something like $25. How do we get creative? How do we ensure that secretaries of state are held accountable? I would love to have, for example, a metric that says, hey, West Allen, you only got 20% turnout. You get, a demerit, or you get some type of punitive response because you have such poor turnout.
So going across the state, hearing the concerns of the people across the state, and really using my background as a former Republican, as somebody that works in construction, that's dealt with people where they're comfortable to be themselves in their homes, across communities, across the state of Alabama. I'm going to commit to the people of Alabama and the concerns and the issues of the people of Alabama instead of what national tells me 100% of the time. And I know that might get, I might get in a little trouble for that from time to time. But people down here have not been served well. If you look at the numbers, we're 49th in income, 49th in life expectancy, 42nd, 44th in infant mortality rates. We have one of the highest poverty rates in the nation. So we need to make sure that the people know that we have somebody out here representing them that is actually going to stand up and fight and call these folks out, no matter how much heat, no matter how many threats that we get.
Follow up to that. There is so much apathy in voters. They're trying to inspire a voter to go and vote because they feel like, why should I vote? It's never going to change. I mean, we come up with all kinds of policies, right and left, and repolls and surveys. But at the end of it, it's still just apathy. How do we enthuse people that it matters, that their vote matters? How can each one of you make that happen in your campaigns?
So back to the water issue. Look at what's happening in Pritchard with the wastewater, where sometimes millions of gallons of sewage, wastewater, or who knows what's in it, comes out in people's backyards. Why can't we solve this issue? The reason why we can't solve this issue is because the folks that have pushed this issue have refused to expand on how many people it affects and how that community is being affected so negatively. But what happens after that wastewater comes up in their yards? It ends up in Mobile Bay. It ends up in Mobile Bay. It affects everybody that's a recreational fisherman. Plenty of them are Republicans. It affects our seafood industry. It could potentially affect Baldwin County and the multi-billion-dollar industry that we have here when it comes to tourism. So showing people that these issues that we've talked about for so long actually affect them, I think that's key. Folks need to know that they are being affected, and I'm going to go out of my way to make sure that we shine the light on that.
So similarly, it is about connecting the dots, and what we've done in the campaign, especially with my social media team, is helping people see in real time how today's news stories translate to legislation. So a perfect example, you guys may remember a couple weeks ago, folks were waiting in line 8 hours to get through Atlanta Airport. A few of my friends had that experience. That was a result of another shutdown, right? And the standoff with regard to ICE. We talk about $4, $5 gas. That's a result of an illegal war, a war that I would not have authorized. And again, if we had the votes, we could shut it down very quickly and possibly even impeach and remove. So it's all about connecting those four folks. It's one of the most interesting things for me is in this process, I didn't realize I would spend so much time educating people on civics. Before you even talk about, hey, I'm running, my name is Dakarai Larriett, it's what is a senator? What does a senator do? And then how do we impact everyday life with legislation?
Ever since Roe versus Wade was overturned in 2022, and even before that, red states seem to be competing for who can put the most restrictions on women's health care. Do you believe that women and only women should make decisions about their own bodies?
Yes, I believe in reproductive freedom. I believe that politicians need to stay out of women's bedrooms and doctor's offices. These are deeply personal, private matters. We have a belief in privacy in our country. So absolutely, it is a personal, private decision, and it is going way too far. And the Supreme Court is going way too far. And that's another place in which the United States Senate has authority in the confirmation process. And we have to stop confirming these activist judges that are trying to be legislators.
a U.S. senator should not be deciding what a woman does with her body. If you look at what's happening in Alabama specifically, there's been talk that folks want to track women across state lines like cattle for reproductive freedom. I want to make sure that we have somebody in Washington, D.C. I will fight for you in Washington, D.C. and fight for your rights to make sure that they can't violate the Constitution there and track you across state lines, because that is what is coming next with this MAGA movement.
Currently, there are several candidates, even candidates in our own state, receiving money from AIPAC. Have you, or would you ever, accept funds from any foreign PAC or special interest group?
No. AIPAC is, I will clarify on AIPAC though, I won't take money from AIPAC, but just so everyone is familiar, AIPAC is U.S. citizens. You can't give that support Israel. So you can't give money, I heard someone mention it earlier, you can't give money to the U.S. Senate race. It's illegal as someone from another country that's not a U.S. citizen, but no.
Okay, so just to clarify my understanding, we cannot accept money from non-citizens. We actually can accept money, believe it or not, from permanent residents. So I just want to clarify that. Now, AIPAC is allegedly an organization funded by Americans, but really driving policy for Israel. I am campaigning for Alabama. So every time I wake up, I'm thinking about policies like education, like healthcare, like economic opportunity that benefit Alabama. Sadly, what we're seeing with AIPAC-funded candidates is this whole neocon movement and forever wars that destabilize our nation, drive up our energy and food costs, and put our brave men and women at unnecessary risk. So absolutely no AIPAC money. We have a statement on our website that's very, very clear. And I would most likely never accept anything affiliated with advocating for a foreign entity.
If elected, how will you ensure federal funds are sent to reopen hospitals that have been closed in Alabama?
Well, I love these questions because I can tell you what I've already done, and then you can infer what I will do. When I heard the big beautiful bill was being debated, I immediately sprung into action. I went to Washington, D.C., and I protested that bill right alongside Representative Waters. And we proudly said no to the big beautiful bill. We have got to fully fund Medicare and Medicaid. And unfortunately, what this bill did is it changed the cost sharing rules to a point where we're going to bankrupt our state if we don't cut back on healthcare. And more hospitals are closing. It's very sad. I've been traveling the state for a year, and I've come to counties that don't have hospitals, or it's the last day for the hospital. And what does that mean? You know, for many of us who live in bigger cities like Birmingham or Huntsville, we do have hospitals, but those folks are going to be traveling to our hospitals now, right? We're going to lose specialists, so it's going to spiral. And think about the healthcare jobs. These are some of the best jobs in the state. So we're going to lose that tax revenue. So it's a death spiral. So one of our key responsibilities will be repealing the big billionaire bill, which stole from our health care and gave tax cuts to billionaires.
So as someone that's a diabetic, healthcare really matters to me. I'm on fast-acting and long-acting insulin, and for years, my wife, Anna, she's over there, my wife Anna and I, to save money, we both did not have insurance. We didn't have insurance so we could take our kids on vacation. Our kids had insurance. We did it to save a bit of money. So over the years, I started to slowly go blind. My vision started to go out, and lo and behold, I was diabetic. And through that, I learned that because I had a pre-existing condition, it was very helpful for me to have something like the ACA. So the government being involved, I think it's a duty of the government to be involved in healthcare, especially when it touches you or your family. You really realize how important it is that we need to help lift other people up. I could probably, swing it if I needed to. I wouldn't die, though it would be pretty bad. But there are folks out there without help from the government, they will literally die. So we have to make it an absolute priority that we move in the direction of having affordable health care for every single person in our entire country. And I will always fight for that. I think about it every day when I'm dialing up my insulin and shooting it up. So thank y'all.
My dad's a type 1 diabetic, so, and I'm a type 2 diabetic, so I got all that. And of course, insulin is like, what, $600 a vial now? That Trump did away with the $35 max on it that Biden had put in place. Good times. This is a question of my own. I'm just going to off the cuff. It kind of brings that up, what you talked about, how government needs to be involved in people's health care. This summer, Supreme Court decided in this committee decision that supported the ban of Tennessee on providing trans kids with gender-affirming care. And the reason was the why. It wasn't that the medical care was wrong, or it was risky, or experimental, or anything like that. It was because of why these kids were getting it. Trans kids couldn't have it. Cis kids, kids who aren't trans, could have it because of why they needed it. So I pose this to both of you. Should the government be able to ban medical care to a certain group of people just because of who they are, but it be okay for quote-unquote normal people?
So I view this as someone that has 2 children, just like anything else, if it's a surgery or anything that requires a signature. So if it requires a signature, then I think that from the parents, then it's up to the parents. Until, obviously, kids are 18.
It comes across to me as an equal treatment issue. So I don't support that ruling. And sadly, we continue to see these rules that are just so arbitrary and hateful. And I think all the data shows that when we allow people to treat their condition, so get affirming care, they're so much better for it after. So we need to follow the science. I believe in evidence-based approaches, and again, would not support any type of restriction that is discriminatory.
Thank you. If elected, how will you ensure God, this is enlightening. In your mind, what is your most important and first agenda item in the Senate?
First one is healthcare. So again, the ACA subsidies have never been affirmed. That was the whole reason of the shutdown. And people are struggling. I'm hearing about $3,000, $4,000 a month premiums. I'm hearing about people who are going without. This is going to be a death spiral. We have a measles outbreak happening in our state, by the way. So imagine folks who are not getting the care they need. I just sat in on a panel last week, and we don't talk about it a lot anymore, but we have an HIV epidemic in our cities, in this state. So again, folks are not getting the care they need. So day one is healthcare. You can't do anything when you are sick.
Standing up to the president by reining in the executive office. That is our single biggest threat that we face right now. If you look at the wars that are being conducted without Congress, which are driving up costs to families across our country. You look at tariffs, which are driving up costs to families across our country. And then you look at the president's lawless behavior in general. If y'all aren't aware, there was a story that came out a couple days ago where the president apparently tried to access nuclear codes at some point. So keeping this guy from killing us all is my top priority.
And Senator, what will you do to restore the civil rights of the LGBTQ community in this country, especially the trans community, as far as like passports, serving in the military, etc., etc.
So I believe the trans community should be able to serve in the military, and I will fight tooth and nail for that. Look, I've received a bunch of pushback off of statements that I made in the past, and I will tell you, I will go ahead and address it now. I, as someone that played college football briefly, I was tested for performance-enhancing drugs, okay, as people at that level are tested. And I made a statement where I said I don't think biological men should compete in women's sports based on the fact that I don't believe we can ensure fairness. So I don't think it's fair to women. As someone that knows women that have competed at the level that they are tested for PEDs, I've not met a single person that does agree with this. Now, I'm not saying they don't exist. Outside of that, I will fight tooth and nail for the LGBTQ community. I will fight for same-sex marriages. I will fight for the ability of same-sex couples to adopt, which, by the way, is going to be an attack point of the Republican Party, and I want to be able to draw a line around that and fight, and that is the strongest position to have here in the state of Alabama, to be able to actually fight to preserve your rights and expand them in some ways.
So this is another question where it's not what am I going to do, it's what have I done for the last 20 years. So my start in public service began at the Bronx Community Pride Center, one of the poorest congressional districts in the nation, and advocating for unhoused and LGBT youth. Sadly, something like 90% of the youth in the Bronx or in New York City are LGBT. Can you guess why? They get thrown out of the house when they come out. It's horrible. It's horrible. So that's where I began my work. And of course, moved into harm reduction again, severely impacting the LGBT community with depression issues, lack of affirming care. When I came back to Alabama, joined the board of University of Alabama, specifically addressing LGBT issues, ensuring that the campus is inclusive and that affordable education is available to everyone. I spent 20 years in corporate America, at the highest levels of corporate America, going out on a limb, professionally advocating for LGBT folks. I was the leader of the LGBT organization at Whirlpool Corporation, the Fortune 100 company, ensuring equal opportunity in the workplace, ensuring that we achieved our HRC 100 rating every single year. Another interesting thing that I was able to work on was allowing people to use their chosen names at work. So you think about our folks in the manufacturing environment, like how humiliating would it be not to have your chosen name on your name badge in the factory. So that's my body of work. Moving forward, I would fight for the exact same things, but we've got to win big. We need you all to come out. We've got to run the right people who can win these elections, flip these seats, get a supermajority, and get things done for you in the Senate.
Should Trump be removed from office by impeachment and/or the 25th Amendment? Would you vote for those?
Yes and yes and all the above. But at the same time, y'all, we've been to this twice. We know that going through a botched, failed impeachment removal process only empowers him. So that's why I think pragmatically I would be taking the oath in January of 2027. We'd have barely 2 years to go. We've got to make sure that when we get in, we are running on, it's like a combination Boyd, Larriett. When we get in, we got to make sure that we're delivering for Alabamians and Americans. Now, we still have to drive for the accountability of the president. I think that we can do more by addressing the issues with the secretaries, jamming up those, ensuring that they do right by American citizens. But of course, yes, I will absolutely vote for impeachment and removal. I'll call for 25th Amendment. They won't do it. They're too afraid to even challenge him on basic things like, did he win the election in 2020?
So the first part of that process if you were to impeach him, we wouldn't be able to hold him accountable, truly. The first part of that process is to pass legislation to undo that Supreme Court ruling. So that's what I'm going to do. Also, want to let y'all know that what I started back in 2021, speaking out and just really doing everything that I could, was not just Donald Trump is a part of it, but it wasn't just Donald Trump. It's against the MAGA movement. I want to be able to compete and defeat the MAGA movement down here in Alabama. So that's what I'm working on. And back to the impeachment thing, one thing leads to the other. So, yes.
Just to clarify on that question, impeachment occurs in the House. One is impeached in the House, and then it goes to the Senate for the trial. So y'all would vote on conviction. So I take it y'all would vote for his conviction if he is so impeached. The immigrant community has been living with a target on their backs for the past year. Most detainees have no criminal record. What would you recommend to, or try to pass, to ensure the safety of the immigrant community, both legal and illegal?
So, one of the major reasons why I'm doing this is my wife. Going in and out of people's houses, and that's my brother-in-law over there, Aaron, sorry. Going in and out of people's houses and you know, the way I look as a stereotypical Alabamian in construction, and hearing people become increasingly xenophobic and racist and having to sit there and work, you know, it just made my blood boil. So this is something that I've received a ton of pushback on, immigration reform, immigration legislation, because folks thought that it wasn't something we could win on back in April. But I haven't wavered, and since then, it's changed. I want to pass immigration legislation. I know the numbers, and I know prior to the deportations, 38 workers for every 100 jobs here in Alabama. That's what we had. 38 workers for every 100 jobs before they started deporting folks. So that is one of the 3 platform positions I have to address this. I believe in strong borders, the strongest borders on earth. But what we're doing right now is wrong, and I'm going to go there to change that.
Immigration is a very dicey issue, and I think the way that we win in this space is by really selling it, just like we have to sell healthcare. And we have an aging population, a very aging population, and to the point where we won't have folks to keep our state and our country running in the next generation. So we've got to explain it to folks that way and help them understand the benefit. And then I also want to make it very clear about who we bring in and why, and make sure that we're matching the talent, because that's what it is. We're talent recruiting with the jobs that we need done in our state. And we've got to be pragmatic about this. So we're seeing other countries create programs where folks can come in and do specific jobs that we need done. And maybe it is not for citizenship. So that is my approach, is making sure that we're fitting to the needs of America in our immigration policy, and just being realistic about how we ensure that this works for everyone.
Our military was unilaterally thrust in a war in Iran by Israel. Our senators believed Trump and blew up our kids' high school, and us have lost an Alabama pilot to this war. Congress has bowed down to Israel and Trump. How are you going to change that and put Alabama first? Are you going to take any money from Israel or IPAC? That's a constant question. Yeah, I've already answered the question on IPAC, but what would you do about the war in Iran? How would you hold this president accountable as a senator?
So we've seen over the last year several War Powers Acts legislations pass, or rather fail, basically aiming to restrict the executive's responsibilities. So again, when we get that majority, we've got to just create standing legislation, because it's too late after we've already attacked a country, if it's Venezuela, if it's Nigeria, if it's Iran, and then say, oh, we actually don't want to authorize that. It doesn't work that way. We're already there. So we've got to create standing legislation, go back and strengthen the War Powers Act, and make it very, very clear the responsibilities of the executive branch to consult and get advisement from the legislative branch and specific approval. And we have to be very clear about what are these emergencies that allow the executive branch to act, because everything can't be an emergency. That's literally not the definition of an emergency.
So, back to reining in the executive office, which it seems to be where we're at a good half of the time. Look, what's happening right now is flat out wrong. We have a president that's acting without Congress, and no one seems to be standing up to him. It's the president that's conducting these actions. And if you look at how he went about it, even if there was an argument that we're not privy to, which we should be, but they are not doing their job, even if there was an argument, the way that he went into the conflict was really, really stupid. So, didn't build a coalition. You might not like George Bush, but at least George Bush built a coalition before he went into Iraq. This guy had no coalition, and because of that, we're seeing the effects of it just now. What, a dozen countries have had oil infrastructure completely destroyed. So if they open up the strait, maybe there's some ships already loaded, but it's not going to be at the same flow or capacity. So our economy now is impacted for the foreseeable future because of this president. So standing up to the president, and I think Tim Kaine had a War Powers resolution I would support.
How will you fight for energy progress and finding better and more efficient ways to power our lives, besides drill, baby, drill?
Well, there's been a whole lot of talk about power company in the future. What I want to do on the federal level is I want to make it easier to build nuclear, wind, and solar. And I'm not talking about, there's a project over here that they were talking about, chopping down a bunch of trees. I'm not talking about that. We put it where, depending on the state we're in our economy, and what we have to work with, that's how we should invest in energy. Nevada might be great to put solar everywhere because there's desert. But in Alabama, if you want solar, it's probably best to stick it on roofs. And I want to make sure that we have the ability to do that by providing the funding here in the state, and also by pushing for total energy policy across our country that demands when data centers build that they use this clean energy 100% of the time. Every single kilowatt that comes out of a data center, I'm not all anti-build data centers because I know that they're a part of the future and they'll be a part of our economy. But we should do it in a smart way, and I think the best way to do that is by making sure that these folks are required by law to use clean energy.
It starts with renewable energy and setting standards. So for automobiles, all types of emissions, construction of data centers, and ensuring that we actually hold these firms accountable. So we continue to see a lessening of restrictions for environmental protection. So we have to write the laws, but then we have to provide the oversight and continue tracking, ensuring that we are caring for our environment, because this is the only environment we have.
Just one more question. Americans are looking for leadership. So are Alabamians. Who will fight for them? What would you do differently than the current slate of Democratic senators who seem to be acquiescing to the Trump agenda?
So this campaign is truly about investing in us through education, healthcare, economic opportunity, and safety. And what we see time and again from the current leaders, Tommy Tuberville and Katie Britt, is they are basically day trading the very industries they are supposed to regulate. We saw Katie Britt her husband allegedly day trading the banking stocks. Tuberville has been trading for years, and they're just misaligned with the needs of Alabamians. We talked a little bit earlier about veterans and readiness for the Army. So thinking about Tommy Tuberville and how he held up all those promotions. So these are not people-centered policies, they're business-centered policies. And I always say it is people who work for businesses. We've got to start with the people first. So every bill that comes across my desk, I'm going to ask, how does this benefit the people of Alabama?
I'll be one of the few people up there in Washington, D.C. that wasn't a former corporate executive or a lawyer. So I'll be going up there to represent the people from my experience of dealing with folks here throughout my lifetime. A different perspective, maybe not completely polished, but honest. And just like the issue that I brought up earlier that I received heat on, I'm not going to shy away from what needs to be said in the state of Alabama as far as trying to win in November so we can take back power. So I will never bow down to folks outside of the state that don't have our best interests at heart. I'll always fight for the people of Alabama. I'll fight for the businesses here. I'll fight for the workers here. I just want to say this. I want to raise wages. I want to cut taxes. And I want to grow the economy.
Thank you, sir. Let's give Terry a round of applause for moderating. These candidates, I have one last question, and I will just handle this question. It's a very important question, and Dr. Boyd over there, this is for you too, actually, for any candidate, right, that has a primary. The last question that says, if you do not win for some reason, you don't win the primary, will you support whoever the Democratic nominee is? And you can just say yes or no, or you can talk a little bit more about it, but Kyle, you have the mic.
100%.
All right. Thank you.
I will support a Democratic candidate. It's very important to me that individuals represent democratic values, for example, LGBT equality, and support and reproductive freedom. These are values that I say are non-negotiable, and you just simply can't be a Democrat. Party cannot not have values. And it's very important that the individual that wins this primary represents those values.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give them another round of applause. And part of the reason I think I was handed this question, it is so important as a party that we unite behind whoever the nominee is, right? And that's why someone handed me this question. So it matters, right? Because these folks are fighting. They're all these folks, Ashley, everybody who's a candidate here, they're working for all of us to be the best candidate they can be and to represent us. But as a whole, we have to come together, no matter who the nominee is, to support whoever the nominee is. And that's extremely, extremely important. We have the votes here in Alabama to change Alabama. We have to get people to the polls. We have too many people sitting out and not voting at all, right? When I ran for a school board back in 2018, I would go into a home and they would say, well, we don't vote. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. No, our vote doesn't count. If your vote didn't count, they wouldn't be trying to suppress it so hard, right? So obviously it counts because they're working overtime to suppress your vote. So again, we appreciate the candidates. We have time. The DJ is gonna play some music. You get up, meet the candidates, talk to them a little bit more, take some pictures with them, come visit the tables. Again, check your voter status. You can go over there and take your phone and scan the QR code to make sure that you are registered to vote. Again, they're purging rolls. Alabama's one of those states that they're purging rolls. You could have voted in the last election, but they'll come back and said, well, they didn't receive a card back from you. They may have did a mail out, and they may have never did a mail out, but no one is going to check behind them to see if they did do a mail out and you didn't mail the card back. So make sure you go and check your voter registration. Again, thank you all for being here. You all have any last announcements?
Michelle does.
Michelle has some last announcements.
All right, so if you're unaware, we have moved to a new system that allows us to consolidate and display all of our activities, such as this, in one safe, secure place. It's called Common. It is a company out of France, so we are bound by their privacy laws. which are great. And so you can find it if you want to sign up for it. There's no charge. It's something we cover here. Yeah, we got these little QR codes. It's a nice little app on your phone. We update it all the time with all the activities. I mean, there's instances where we have like 17, 18 activities happening in a single month. We partner with League of Women Voters and other organizations like Indivisible to ensure that, you guys have one spot to know what's happening in Baldwin County and even into other counties. So please, if you'd like to, we encourage everybody to download, even if you're across the bay.
And then fundraiser.
Oh,
Yes, if you want me to.
sure.
Sorry, y'all, one last thing. For those of y'all who don't know, we have our annual fundraiser coming up on May 7th. It's going to be a night out for democracy. It's a ticketed event going to be at the Eastern Shore Arts Center in Fairhope, the evening of May 7th from 6 to 9. We're going to be joined by Grayson Capps, who's going to be doing a private show for us. Mark Polenkarz from the NDCO is going to be there. We're going to have a silent auction, raffles, so many amazing things. So if y'all are interested in attending that, please either visit baldwincounty.democrats.org. You can also find the information on that Common app and also on our Facebook page. So thank y'all again so much for coming out today.
Please do not leave any campaign materials laying around it, because we weren't supposed to be passing out any cards or anything in the park. That was a city ordinance, right?